Okay, so we have voluntarily gone back into the lion's den with this game. Um, I want to try to make a short little, maybe like a little mini series of videos, um, to kind of fully understand how this affinity system works and how to make builds work based upon them. So, in this video specifically, I'm going to be going through all the classes except Blue Mage. I don't have Blue Mage yet, but I wouldn't recommend using Blue Mage anyway, so we can kind of cut that one out already. But I'm going to go through what I'm going to use and what I'm not going to use. I have a little list on my phone next to me, so I remember what I am going to use. But as we eliminate these from contention, I'm also going to be telling you why I'm eliminating them from contention, and how I feel like I'm going to make my build. Now, this disclaimer, this is not going to apply to everybody. What applies to me and my process of doing it is not necessarily going to apply to you. For instance, there may come a time when you decide you want to use Pugilist or you want to use Monk or any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to cut it just because I'm not going to use Monk or Pugilist or any of those, but that doesn't mean you have to. The whole purpose of this is just to show how you need to better sort your equipment as you're going through these rifts, as you're going through missions, as you're going through missions in extra mode, to be particular. That's all that this is about. It's just to show you that how to sort this shit better, and just if you're not gonna use the here we'll get into it. Okay, so let's start like this. For starters, these first 10 we're not gonna use. Because the whole point of using Affinity is to get that shit to 400, right? So if you look at these and they're 400s, it just like enables you to do some shit with the specific weapon. With Sword Fighter, it's a sword. Swordsman, it's a great sword. Mage, it's a mace. Pilgrim, it's a staff. Marksman, it's a gun, etc., etc. That shit is not gonna help that much in the long run, I feel. Personally, I don't see, if we're talking about in-game builds here and optimizing to hyper-optimizing our build, there's no reason from what I can see to use any of these 10, right? So these are going out the gate. Like, we're not even going to consider these, right? Any equipment that you have that has these on it, either dump it or find a piece of equipment that has double on it, a paired affinity, if you will, and it's 350 or higher, and you can just mix and match affinities from there. Because obviously you want to get to 400, but the goal here is just to get paired affinities to 400. That way you have 400 in 2 different affinities from one piece of equipment, right? So first 10 knocked out. Warrior is not something I'm going to use. Let's see. It's reduced MP cost of abilities affected by a combo ability activation. So R1, R1, R2, it's going to reduce the MP cost for that. Could be useful. Not really, because if you got your shit built the right way, which we'll have to get into at some other point, then you shouldn't have to worry about reducing the MP cost, because you always have MP, right? So if I always have MP, I don't need to reduce the cost, because after using the ability and getting the soul burst or using a soul shield or whatever it is, I'm getting way more MP than I'm spending anyway. So this is like redundant. And then reduces the max break gauge when targeting weakness. Again, not something I'm going to use. Could be useful if you're trying to do like a status effect build. That could work for that, but otherwise I don't really see a use for it. That's just me personally. So Warrior's out. Knight absolutely stays just because of this, right? Grants immunity to enemy attacks while Lightbringer is active. You're trying to farm gear, pick a level 500 mission, go into it on extra mode with this at 400%. You can't die. You literally can't die. And you can kill and you can run through the whole level, kill every enemy, and just farm areas. Like that's essentially what this is for. That's essentially what this is for. In regular modes, you can still use it, but every time they hit you, you're invincible, but it takes a massive chunk out of that Lightbringer gauge. So it's like you might get off with like 2, maybe 3 hits, but after that, it's like done. And then you have to spend another 1 or 2 MP to use it again, and you basically have to set yourself up for using it. So it's mainly used for extra mode, right? Mainly used for extra mode. So it stays just because extra mode exists. If extra mode didn't exist, it'd probably be hitting the can too. But because extra mode does exist, it stays. Berserker is definitely going to stay. This is going to be one of my main melee builds. One of the main jobs that I'm going to use for melee. Savage Awakening automatically grants the effects of Protect and Shell when near death. I mean, it speaks for itself. You get low on health, Protect and Shell. Not much more to say about that. And gradually restores MP while Lightbringer is active. So, if paired with Knight, not only am I, this is what I'm talking about. Not only am I invincible and can't take damage, I'm gradually increasing my MP and regaining my MP while I'm a Lightbringer. Now, if I'm in extra mode, then like literally should never be out of MP. And if I am, then just take a step back because like I can't die, and I'm always having MP. So yeah. Oops. Go back. There we go. Okay, Thief, luck bonus is good if you're going to use Gambler, but that's quite literally all that luck is used for, is like if you're going to use Gambler, and it's because that entire class is built off of luck. So if you're not going to use Gambler, kind of worthless. Makes it easier to acquire rare equipment. I mean, that's cool, but it's like you're going to be farming a shit ton of enemies anyway and getting a bunch of equipment anyway. Does it really matter if it's rare? You're not really looking for a specific like tier. Like you're not looking for necessarily 5 stars or artifacts or any of that kind of shit. I mean, you're gonna get that shit anyway, right? Like making it easier to get that shit doesn't really make sense in terms of a build. Maybe good for like utility, because like if we're talking about like hyper optimizing shit, then it could definitely be good as like a not a secondary, but like a terror. I don't know how you say that word. Hold on. How do you say the word? Tertiary. That's how you say it. It's like a which means like third in order, right? So like it could be good as like a tertiary piece of affinity to use, you know, maybe something a little more passive, but as like for a main build, if you're just going for like maybe 4, 5, 6 at the most affinities, doesn't really make sense to have, you know. Good tertiary one, but not something I'm really worried about. So Thief is gone. Monk, Monk's not a bad class. I want to make that clear. Like none of these are technically like quote unquote bad classes, really. I'm not basing them off of what they do in terms of function and action. I'm basing it off of job affinity. Like that's what's getting cut. Like they're getting cut solely because of what the affinity does. Because I'm basing my build at least off of the job affinity, right? So Monk increases the duration of all buffs activated by a successful parry. If you parry a lot, if you're using the classes that require you to parry a lot, like the Ronins and the Samurais and all those, then it makes sense, right? And greatly increases max HP. I don't know what the I don't know if that's a flat rate or if that's a percentage based or what it is, but the way I see it, if they're gonna kill you, they're gonna kill you. So however much, like it's not a lot. Like it says greatly, but it's not like a lot. On the right side, you can see it builds my stuff up to an extra 277, and that's like nothing. Like that doesn't really mean anything at all. So yeah, if that's what greatly means, then yeah, it's just nothing. So monk's out. White mage absolutely comes. It absolutely makes the cut, simply because of not only do I get an additional spirit bonus, which is good for magic defense. It's not really for that. Automatically, it's auto life. 400%, you get auto life. In rifts, that's really good because if you've already bought your 3 Phoenix Downs, you basically get an additional Phoenix Down. So it makes it 4. But even if you're not doing rifts and you're just grinding missions regularly, it's auto life. Like it's auto life. And if you choose the right subclass of this, you get a spell that allows you to give everybody auto life. You know, you get either I think it's you either get full life or you get auto life. So like it's a second chance basically. You know? So yeah, it absolutely makes the cut. Black Mage. Additional intellect bonus is nice, especially if you're doing a mage build. It makes a lot of sense to have. And let's see, increases MP limit based on magic damage dealt. Increase MP limit based on damage dealt. But the whole thing about this probably isn't going to come with me, right? I'm probably not going to use this just because the amount of MP I get back from Soul Shield is so great that this would just like cease to matter. Like I like the intellect bonus, but I mean, I'm sure I can find ways around that too. And it looks like at max, it's giving me a plus 24 to intellect, and I can get that by just fucking around with special effects on items and the class that I'm using itself. So like Sage, right? Like I can get that 24 from Sage just by building it using master points, right? So I don't think I'm going to use Black Mage. Red Mage decreases the amount of time required to charge attacks. I don't know if this counts towards spells. I don't know if it's just like physical attacks. If it is, but I mean, even if it is, then I could just cast Haste, which I will be doing as a Sage. So I don't really need that. And increases MP limit and restores MP when inflicting a status ailment on an enemy. I'm not ever going to be inflicting status ailments on people. Like I don't do that, right? This is good if you're, like I said, if you're using builds that inflict status ailments. That's really good. You know, it gives you more MP. It gives you more max MP and restores your current MP the moment you do it. So like it's good for that, but for my purposes, it doesn't work. So I don't need any of that. Dragoon. Enemies defeated by an action ability will be finished with a soul burst. Very meh. Could be useful. I don't see how it would make it easier for me to go through enemies, right? Like I R1 R2'd you, killed you with the action ability. Now you're finished with a soul burst. I might get that little bit of a what do you call it? I'll get that little like shockwave that happens after a soul burst, and Yeah, if there are enemies close by, they'll get hit by a wall or they'll get blown back and maybe staggered a little bit, and like that's cool, but it's like I have to literally group myself up with enemies in order for this to maintain any kind of like decent effect, right? And the enemies themselves that get blown back or hit the wall have to already have low enough break gauge for me to even kill them with a soul burst, right? So it's like group shit. You know, I have to have a group of enemies low on max break gauge in order for this to make any sense. So not for me. And increases attack speed while Lightbringer is active. I'm sure there's a whole build out there that's revolved around being in Lightbringer and where you're just this unstoppable, invincible fucking god, which I might actually have to try out at some point. But for the purposes of the current build that I'm making now, this makes no sense. Increased attack speed is really good. I wonder if it stacks with it's not Mighty Strikes. There's a command ability that increases your attack speed as well. If it stacks with that command ability, that will make it even better. But yeah, not for me. Samurai. Let's see here. Temporary increases damage dealt after a chain cancel. I'll be honest with you. I've got almost 100 hours in this game. I still don't know what the fuck a chain cancel is. But I'm sure it's important to samurais and whatever other job uses it. So for my purposes, I don't need it. But it's got to be good for something. Because I still don't know what the fuck a chain cancel is. I'm actually having an idea. The only thing I can think of what a chain cancel might be is when like you hit them with an ability and then immediately hit, I don't know, maybe it's immediately hit triangle to switch the class and then like you get something out of that. I think that might be what a chain cancel is, but I don't really know. But regardless of what it is, it's not for me. In my eye, a successful parry will cause the next ability to critically hit. Could be astronomical. Could be really good, because it really just depends on what that next ability is and how much damage it does regularly. But if it's a guaranteed critical hit, you know, let's assume it's something like Zantetsuken or something, right? Like that could be huge. It could be huge, just not for me. Evoker. Using a potion also cures status ailments could be good. Could be good. Really, it's just dependent on the enemy type. MP slowly recovers when HP is at max. Good, but not good, because it requires you to not be getting hit. So it's basically for mage builds. It could be useful. Absolutely could be useful. But again, probably another tertiary affinity that you would put on a build after you've got your primary and secondary filled out. I don't think for me personally, not something that I really plan on using. That I can tell. I mean, maybe, because like there's a definite maybe, like you know, in my thoughts right now when I think of using this, because that could work, but it slowly recovers. You know, it's a very small regenerative effect that I don't know will really make a lot. Of course, then again, I could maybe stack it with something, and you know, I could just have that in the background while I'm doing whatever else I'm doing. You know, I mean, it the way I see it, like the more MP I can continuously have, the better. So that's a maybe for me personally. I don't know if there's anything else that there's any other, or not anything else, but if there's any reason for me to use that past just having it be like a tertiary thing, right? So maybe Hunter, absolutely not. Excuse me, absolutely not. Makes it easier to perform attacks from behind and increase their critical chance. Okay. Restores MP on hit by a fixed amount regardless of damage dealt. Okay, cool. But it's like, I don't fucking... I have to imagine that fixed amount it's not very big, right? It's not very huge. It might be like a bar and a half, but it's nothing huge, right? And this like makes it easier to perform attacks from behind, increase the critical chance. Like, newsflash, you already get crits from hitting people from the rear. Like any way you flank people, you get crits. So that like makes no sense to me. I don't know what makes it easier, but yeah, it's just not for me. Dark Knight is probably one I'll keep. Increased damage dealt when being targeted by an enemy. So as long as you have somebody's aggro, you're gonna be doing more damage. That's really good. All effects that trigger when near death are active at all times. So that's these adrenaline bonuses. So it looks like when near death, yeah, so by 9%. So a little bit of like a bloodied build type thing, where you do more damage the lower your health is. Could definitely be useful, but I mean, I would mainly use it for just the raw damage that Dark Knight brings. I've been able to do stuff with Dark Knight before where I've been able to stack certain command abilities and have certain item effects or weapon effects rather on items that make this just like killer, right? I get to use axes, and axes are probably the most powerful raw damage weapon in this game, so that's good. So I will probably, you know what, I will put Dark Knight on the list because I think I will at some point end up using Dark Knight, and its affinity is not bad. Okay, so right now I'm sitting at five classes that have that I'll use for affinity. Let's see, Paladin. Bringer of Light. Gradually restores HP while Lightbringer is active. Again, for a Lightbringer build, like the more of these that I see, the more I just want to make a Lightbringer build and just see like just how nasty it gets, right? Just how fucking tanked out I am doing that. And grants immunity to all status ailments. Very good. Very good. I don't know that it holds any utility for me, personally, but... Oh, excuse me. Ooh. But that's not bad. Like, these two are not bad at all. So this is also a maybe, along with Evoker. Yeah, it was Evoker. So Paladin is also a maybe. I'm not going to put it on the list yet. Ninja... Critical hits will reduce the enemy's max break gauge. Seeing how Assassin works, that's like really good. Because this is pure DPS. But if you're getting crits all the time, and you mark your opponent to the max, I think it's like 20 marks that you can put on them, that you can stack on them, and then you let that go with 250 Ninja Affinity, that's a lot of break gauge that goes down. Also, you would have to have, you would definitely have to have the item effects that make it to where you do, I don't know if there's critical break gauge dealt. I don't know if that's a thing, but just regular break gauge dealt. And then I let's see, like if you're using knives or like a samurai sword, then that would just be slash break damage, and you could put that on there. But yeah, that's definitely not bad. All ability attacks will temporarily decrease enemy break gauge recovery. Okay, so this just makes it harder for them to regain the break gauge after. So this is actually really good, actually. This one is also a maybe. Just because, let's see, 250 crits reduce the max gauge, right? At 400, it makes it to where ability attacks, which is that R2, make it harder for them to regain that. So if it's already harder for them to regain that, and you just keep laying into them with this, yeah, they're gonna have like no break gauge, and before you know it, you're gonna be ready to soul burst them. So definitely pretty decent. This is also a maybe. So we got 3 maybes. Assassin. Applies an additional agility bonus, which is really good. It looks like plus 30 agility is what they give you for this, on top of whatever you might lay into it with master points. So pretty decent. Increases break damage dealt the longer you avoid taking damage. So as I look at this, it sounds really good. And I'll tell you why. So my whole thing with Sage right now is about break damage. And it's about doing, the ultimate goal is basically just to get Ultima and then to lay into them with Ultima, because Ultima is non-elemental. And because it's non-elemental, it does a massive amount of break damage. It does heavy break damage. So, and I have, you know, all my equipment and my staff and all that stuff set up to be able to do the most break damage possible. So this would just add on to that. Like I would have this kind of affinity on my Sage job, and so long as I'm sitting back in the cut, not really taking damage, not really being bothered, this could be like really deadly. It could be really deadly, actually. So yeah, I think I will add Assassin to the list. I think I will add Assassin to the list because that is like pretty damn good, and I can see a utility for that for me. Let's see. Definitely need to up the level though. 80 is like nothing. I need to get that boy up. I'll have to go see what missions I haven't done yet. But yeah, that's pretty good. And agility never hurts. I think agility, for what I've read, it also increases the break damage dealt, I think. So if that is what it does, then this is just extra break damage on top of extra break damage. So really good. Liberator. Increases the potency of HP recovery effects. So essentially, like, if you do crits, you get HP recovery. If you successfully block with a soul shield, you get HP recovery. That's good for that. Not really something I'm really looking to use personally. But it's good for that kind of stuff. And the Hero's Guidance shares the effects of potions with your allies and revives any fallen party members. That's astronomical, actually. That's pretty damn good in co-op play. Could definitely be used in offline play as well. Because you definitely want to try your damnedest, as a mage at least, to get your companions to hit aggro and keep it. And you know, being able to only use one potion to heal everybody and not have to use like MP for that, is pretty good. It's pretty good. So that's like, I think this is a no for me, but it is a good tertiary one to have just in case. But it's not one that I'm going to like, it's not a primary or secondary, right? So like, it's definitely a good tertiary one, but not for me right now. Breaker, probably yes, right? Probably yes. Additional strength, that's more raw damage. Increases damage dealt after a successful soul burst. Triggering another soul burst while this effect is active further increases it. Yes, because this is raw damage. That's all this is. That's all this is. That's all this fucking class is about, is heavy break damage and heavy raw physical attack. That's it. So this is absolutely going on the list. There's not really much to say other than raw power. Like, that's all it is. So we got Breaker on here. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, that was probably the shortest one I needed to explain. It's just raw damage. Let's see. Void Knight, Void Rune. Increased potency of MP recovery effects. Also pretty good, especially for what I'm doing. I believe that this would equate to using the Soul Shield and getting an MP boost out of using the Soul Shield. So that is like pretty good. And greatly reduces the cost of command abilities. That's really good, actually. And it's only really good because I don't want to have later on in the fight. I don't want to have to worry about having 3 or 4 bars just to be able to buff, right? If I can do all my buffs with just 1 or 2 bars, That's pretty astronomical, actually. So yeah, I will keep Void Knight as well. I will keep Void Knight as well. Let's see here. I like Void Knight. Okay, let's see. Tyrant. Restores HP based on damage dealt when targeting enemy weakness. Very setup based. If you're doing this, it's good. Something akin to a vampire build. I could see using this. But like I said, that's a very specific build. You're targeting enemy weakness, so that's a very specific build that you have to look out for. Not necessarily something that I'm trying to do. And all attacks against an enemy afflicted with a status element will critically hit. Again, very, very, very specific build. Very specific. Not really something that I'm looking for. Sage, obviously. That's my main class that I use. Nullify all magic damage while guarding. That's cool. It's not really something that I really use. I really want it for this. Potions now restore MP and refill the break gauge. That's great. Like, that's fantastic. For me personally. So definitely gonna have Sage on there. Let's see. Summoner. Mist Blessing decreases sustained MP cost. I think this is solely just for Summoner. Like, I don't see any other. Well, no, that's not true. That's not true, because now that I look at it, like Liberator with like Mighty Guard, and I think it's Monk with their R2. So I could see it for those, but for me, like, I don't have a sustained MP cost. It might be good as a tertiary for like Berserker, because when I do use Adrenaline, I think it decreases my stuff. But if not, I know Dark Knight does, so it could be good for a tertiary for Dark Knight, but it's not something that I would main. And a successful Soul Shield increases the duration of active buffs. Also a pretty decent one. Not bad. I can see it being used, but also under very specific circumstances, because you have to remember, like, that's cool. But if you have, if you're already this far, then that means you're doing Trials of the Dragon King, and that means that you have, unless you explicitly went without, you have points that are taken away from the duration of your active buffs. So, I mean, this could kind of like counteract that, maybe. I could see it for that. But again, like, not a primary or a secondary affinity worth trying to spec into. I feel like it's good as a tertiary. Like, there's a lot of good tertiary ones in here that you would use as just something to, okay, I'm here now, so let's just like supplement it a little bit more, and that would make sense for that. But to base an entire build around it, I'm not too sure. So that's definitely a no for me. Gambler is absolutely a no for me. I'll run through these really quick. Occasionally nullifies damage when an enemy attack hits. This chance increases with luck. This is all about luck, right? And it's still, and even if you have high luck, it's still occasionally. So there's still some, it's not random, right? There's still some preset percentage that, let's put it this way, you're not increasing the percentage chance that it will happen. You're increasing, how do we say this? You're increasing the amount of chances that you get to hit that percentage. You're not increasing the base percentage itself. You're just increasing the amount of chances that you get a shot at that percentage, pretty much. And okay, that's cool, but I mean, it's like one attack from what I understand. It might be like a flurry of attacks, so like if an attack happens in rapid succession, then yeah, maybe. But again, it's also based off of luck, and luck is like not a stat that you spec into unless you're specifically going for Gambler. I don't see any other reason to have luck, right? So not something that I really want. And all attacks have a small chance to become critical hits. This chance increases with the luck stat. Honestly, these two could have been switched, but it wouldn't have mattered either way, because this like matters like not at all. All attacks have a small chance to become critical hits. Like, okay. If you want easy critical hits, flank them. Like, just flank them. It's just like, you have to play a little more tactically, sure, but just flank them and you'll get crits. I mean, it doesn't really. This might be like the worst one in terms of because I wouldn't even use this shit as tertiary, right? Like, it doesn't make or break a build. It doesn't really add anything to the build. You know, you could really take it or leave it, honestly. Like, that's kind of my final verdict on it. You could just take it or leave it. So yeah. And last but not least, Cyclic Warrior. Fearless Soul gradually increases MP limit when MP limit is below 200. That could be good. Really just depends on how much 200 is. I don't know how much a bar equates to. I don't know if that's 50 or 100 per bar. Well, let's see. Oh, here we go. On the right side. So 200 is 2 bars. So it will gradually increase the limit, MP limit, when MP limit is below 200. Okay, so let's say you start a fight with 2 bars. It will just gradually increase the max amount that you have. Is below 200. I don't know, because it's like, why would you ever want, like, you have to be below 200 in order for this to work, like, for this to kick in. So, like, even if you only had like 1 bar or like half a bar, like, it would go up, but I don't know, maybe it's just like a an endurance thing where the longer you're in the fight, the more max MP you get. But again, it's like, dude, if you really want more MP, spec into shit that deals with the soul shield. You know, do soul bursts. I mean, I'm sure there are other ways. I just can't think of any off the top of my head. But like, those are like the soul shield is like the prime reason for that kind of shit. Like, if you want more MP, parry shit, block shit with the soul shield. Get your do max break damage, break gauge damage, and soul burst them. You get MP from that. This doesn't seem very useful, honestly. Divine Punishment. Using a soul burst while Lightbringer is active will increase Lightbringer's duration. This is fantastic for that. Absolutely. Like, this is the creme de la creme of perks that you want to have on your Lightbringer build. So 400% for Cyclic Warrior on a Lightbringer build? Absolutely. For my purposes, not really. I think I'm good. So yeah, that's all the affinities and like what they do. And it seems like I did get 8. That was what I was going for. I was going for 8 to use. So right now, for my purposes, I have Knight, Sage, Berserker, White Mage, Dark Knight, Assassin, Breaker, and Void Knight. Those are the affinities that I'm going to focus on. And so now, let's see here. Oh boy, we've been going a while. Let's see here. I think all I'll do to kind of end this out, to conclude this, is just show you what I'm doing. So let's see here. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go to our items. And let's see here. And we're just going to go to filter. I've just found out that you could do this because I like how you can do it by affinity, but it doesn't do it by class, right? It doesn't do it by jobs. It just does it by like the most to least percentage. So I found you hit square, you go to filter, and then you go over here. Now, what I like to do is just hit job affinity 1, and let's see. We're going to use Berserker. We're going to use Knight. We are not going to use Thief. So we'll go to Thief. We'll filter it. These are all my Thief ones. Now this is the part that I think is important. You notice how there's a paired affinity on this partisan, and that paired affinity is at 230. The way I see it, if we're really trying to optimize, If that percentage is not at 350 or above, scrap it. Because all the crests that it's going to take from both classes, mind you, not just the one, from both classes, it's going to be so much more grinding. And we're trying to dilute and not dilute, but mitigate the grind as much as possible, just because like nobody's trying to sit here forever grinding crests so they can build this shit up to 400. Like nobody's trying to do that shit. So if it's under 350 or above, or yeah, if it's under 350, scrap it. Like it's not useful. It's not useful at all. Why can't I scrap these? Go back. I can't scrap them for some reason. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, right. I gotta not here. I gotta go to the Tomber. Okay, so dismantle. There we go. Okay, then we filter. I forgot that I had gone through this like this. Okay, so yeah. Oh yeah, we got a lot more now. So thief, yeah, like not gonna use any of these. This is good. And the only reason that this is good is because those affinities are not permanent. You can change those affinities to whatever it is that you want to change those affinities to, provided you have the right weapon. But no matter what you change it to, you're going to need the crests for it. So you're not trying to have to go grind for crests. Like you should already have a decent amount of crests, but you're not trying to have to go grind for more, right? Because the way I'm looking at it, it doesn't seem like there's a real guaranteed way. There's like there's a better way to go trying to grind for them, but there's not like guaranteed, go here, do this, and you'll get these crests like this, right? So yeah, 350 or under, scrap. Let's see. Yeah, no, I don't want this. At least one of every weapon type must be owned. Okay, well, that's fair. And then we'll go here. So like for this, right, for armor, all I'll say about armor is that if it takes up 2 slots, like for instance, this is a torso and a pants. If it takes up 2 slots, it has to have 2 affinities on it. That's the only way I can justify it being able to take up 2 slots, because it has to have 2, right? So because it doesn't have 2, it gets scrapped. Now granted, these shoes have 2, but they're under 150. I don't know if maybe that's like a cutoff for these, but if it is a cutoff, like these can't go as high as like maybe this can go, then, you know, that's like another discussion, right? Maybe that's something that you just have to do. But otherwise, yeah, scrap. Okay, and then you just rinse, repeat, right? You just rinse, repeat. We did that one. Let's see, Berserker, Monk, not gonna use Monk. Then you would go back through and do the same thing with Monk, right? And just go down all of them, because like, if you're not gonna use the affinity, you don't need it in your shit, right? You need to be able to focus on what you need to focus on, and you know, be able to fuse shit with what you need to fuse shit with, like, because like now you'll know, okay, this is what I have, this is what I can fuse, you know, and you don't have to sift through all this fucking garbage that you're not gonna use, right? Because this shit means nothing if you're not gonna use it. So that's pretty much it. I've been going for like 44 minutes now. So yeah, I'll just like leave it at that. But yeah, that's how like I would recommend going through this. And after that, it's just like run through rifts and run through missions on extra mode with 400% night affinity, and grind shit out until you get and you know, do Trials of the Dragon King so that you can get a bunch of dragon treasure, and keep resetting that list until maybe you see something in there that you want, or that you can use or take affinities from, or whatever it might be. But yeah, like this is just how like I would do it personally. So yeah, that's that. And hope you found this informative. I'm gonna go. Later.